so as we're watching with NBA free agency right now and so many of these moves, there's so much financial motivation, and we have no
Yeah.
idea what the financial situation is going to be in the league next year. So, again, that
Yeah.
shrug emoji just keeps coming up, Kendra, and eventually, hopefully, we get some answers. One way to be smart is to bring on really smart guests. Kendra Andrews from ESPN is just that. We're going to bring Kendra on now and hopefully catch Sonia Citron at 6:30. So, Kendra, first of all, welcome to our very silly radio show. Thank you for your flexibility as we try to catch Sony, and hope you're having a great week.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, you reported with your colleague Alexa Philippou yesterday that the Mystics have, in some form or fashion, fielded trade calls or the idea of dealing Aaliyah Edwards, their first draft pick last year, first round pick, 6th overall. And that could mean a lot of things. Teams could have called them. They could be putting out feelers. Like, what more can you tell us in detail about the status of Aaliyah Edwards, the Washington Mystics, and other teams' interest in her?
Yeah, I think the way to simply sum it up is just that they're ongoing and nothing is, we'll say imminent or going to happen right now, right away. But it's something that they're thinking about and having conversations with a handful of teams. We've seen this season that Aaliyah's minutes have dwindled after her being such an important role to the team last year. And part of that is because of the incredible rookie duo, Kiki Irifen, especially in the front court. Same with Shakira. The Mystics just seem to on their young stars that they have right now that aren't Aaliyah Edwards, and so you kind of have to look at this in a little bit of a long-term approach because yes, they could 100% still keep her, and that is fine, and they wouldn't lose anything. But you also look at the fact that there are a lot of veterans who are set to be free agents next year. So, a team looking to add someone now, she's still going to be on her rookie scale contract. So that could be something that other teams are trying to land, knowing that someone will be back the following season. And the other thing that you look at is that there's going to be so many expansion drafts really over the next 5 years, but with 2 teams joining the league next year, some, teams are going to have to protect some players and leave other players unprotected. And if she isn't a part of your rotation and if you don't foresee her being a part of the plan moving forward, see what you can get for a very young, talented player with a lot of upside versus losing her for nothing in 6 months from now. And so I think that all of these things are things that the Mystics are considering and weighing. But again, it's not a decision that they're rushing into or something that they feel that they have to absolutely do right now.
So a huge shaping factor of this is that expansion draft you just mentioned, Kendra. What do we know now about what the rules will be? How many players will be protected? Or do we not? And are GMs and execs otherwise around the league freaking out about that as we steamroll towards the trade deadline? What is it, about a month from now?
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything publicly that we know. Maybe GMs and execs and league or team officials have been informed a bit from the league of what their plan is, because as you said, like the trade deadline is quickly approaching, faster than I think anyone wants it to be. And so you do have to start looking past this year. And I think the expansion draft has put like different pressure on the way that teams operate now. And it's also going to be even more different, I think, than what we saw last, December for the Valkyries expansion draft, because there are 2 teams that are going to be in this draft versus just the one. So is the fact that both Portland and Toronto will be in this expansion draft adjust any of the rules that we saw from when Golden State was joining? Because when Golden State was expanding for their draft, it was protecting 6 players on each team. So we don't know if it's still going to be 6 players, if it's going to be less than that, because more players are going to have to be selected. but I'm sure it is, as you pointed out, something that GMs are trying to figure out and think about when they're navigating around the trade deadline.
I mean, it just feels utterly ridiculous that they wouldn't know. Like, how do you do any kind of long-term planning? And I think another thing, too, the NWSL completely got rid of their expansion drafts, and they got rid of all drafts. Before they did, they allowed teams to trade. So if, say, the Mystics wanted to get Aaliyah to Toronto, where she's from, and say, hey, we know this is good for you, it's also good for us, and then no team could take, or Toronto couldn't take another player from them, like, not understanding that seems crazy, but what are you going to do? Yell at the league office and hope they listen?
Maybe. I mean, maybe those calls were made. It is an interesting point that you make about the trades. And again, I think the league it's easier now maybe for them to come up with rules, because when they did the expansion draft with Golden State, that was the first time in 16 years, right, that they had done it. And now you're doing it far more frequently, because we're going to have an expansion draft in 2025. We're going to have an expansion draft probably in 2027, 28, 29, right, with those other 3 expansion drafts coming. So it is now that they kind of have to set a precedent for what they want the continued expansion of the W to look like. So as much of a, example we can say of Golden State's expansion was, I think, again, with the continued amount of teams, growing, this next one, I think, is going to set a big precedent for what's to come for Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia. But even with those, again, it's different because those are all one team added 1 year. I think this is going to be interesting to see what happens when you have 2 teams coming in the same year. So we'll see what happens.
Right. And there's also the CBA negotiations. Do the players have something to say? Like, who knows? The shrug emoji currently could replace the WNBA logo.
It really is. There's so many questions that need to be answered. I think the CBA negotiations, there's obviously such a large part of the conversation from fans of the W and viewers and stuff has been about pay, but there's so much more that is going into this. And one topic of conversation since the announcement of Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia coming are roster sizes. And I think that that's something that we could see, be discussed here. Is the 12 players still the right way to go? Is that, and then again, we circle back to our conversation about how to front offices then navigate that if you can add more roster spots. So I just think, as you said, the shrug emoji is very big right now in questions around just how the W is going to kind of navigate these next couple of months.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of questions, not a lot of answers, and the calendar is moving quickly. Kendra Andrews with us here on The Hoffman Show. Of course, great reporter covering the WNBA and the NBA for ESPN. When we talk more specifically about this reporting that you and Alexa did on Aaliyah, how, she's had some really nice moments. Obviously, I think the best moment of her professional basketball career is how well she played at Unrivaled. How is Aaliyah Edwards viewed around the league right now? Is she's obviously, as you said, the reason she's not playing here is because Shakira's been unbelievable since she got back in the starting lineup, and Kiki's been incredible since day one, and there's just only so many minutes to go around. But how is Aaliyah Edwards viewed around the league right now?
Yeah, I mean, she's a young player with a lot of upside, and we really saw that last year, just how well she played. And she was on the unfortunate end of an injury at the start of the season. And as you mentioned, when one player goes down, it's the next player's opportunity to take that position. And that's exactly what Kiki and Shakira did. But she's still extremely respected, and her stock is still high, right? She hasn't played poorly at all. Her minutes just have been more restricted. And so I think looking around, the league, the way that the league looks at her is, again, she's not someone who has fallen off or gave her spot away. It's kind of those minutes were taken by her from 2 players that have just been playing incredibly. And the Mystics, they're under new management and they're under new coaching, and just with the direction that the team has gone this season. Also, it's when the Mystics are, I think, outperforming their expectations. If things are working for you, you kind of have to stick with what's working for you, especially when it's better, a lot better than maybe what you or others expected you were going to be. But again, I think the league has a lot of respect for what Aaliyah can do. She's a young player. She's only in her second year. And that's what people want. They want young stars who can continue to hone in on their skills and have a lot more to grow. And that's what Aaliyah is.
And then last thing for you, Kendra, do you have any sense what the Mystics would be looking for in return? As you said, because of this CBA and everyone's a free agent and Aaliyah or any veteran is a free agent, all the players that have been drafted in the last couple of years on their rookie scaled contracts, so they become extraordinarily valuable. And the Mystics, as you said, also outperforming expectations perhaps. And so maybe they're a little more ready to be good now and compete and get some playoff experience this year. They already have a ton of draft assets in the future. Are they looking to accumulate even more? Are they looking for a veteran in return? Like, do you have any sense in these trade calls kind of how the other side of the conversation is going? Oh, you want our number 6 pick from last year? Well, what are you going to give us?
Right. Yeah. And I think that's always a question. I think the Mystics right now, like we talked about, like they are outperforming some expectations of what was thought to be the start of a rebuild. And with that, you have to clearly build on momentum, but also not get too ahead of yourself. And you have to play things realistically. And so is there a piece that can shoot them from where they are now to a real contender? I don't know if that's what their goal is necessarily going to be, but it's of course to say, hey, if the young bones of Kiki and Sonia and the emergence of Shakira Austin have gotten us this far, how can we just kind of keep staying competitive and at least maybe just be in that playoff picture? I think that's something that they have to navigate, and it's always interesting hearing. Whenever we talk about trades, like there is so many pieces that have to work out. And it really is, okay, what else are the other teams willing to give up to get a player? And I think that's something that is easier said than done, to come up with perfect trade scenarios of, okay, well, maybe Aaliyah would fit in great with XYZ, but do they have the pieces that the Mystics are looking for? So I don't think the Mystics are going to rush this process of, oh my gosh, we have to contend right away, because is that realistic for them in the first year of this new era? But what can kind of just keep them growing and keep them on the right track?
For sure. And then I think it's also so hard because as we're watching with NBA free agency right now and so many of these moves, there's so much financial motivation, and we have no idea what the financial situation is going to be in the league next year. So again, that shrug emoji just keeps coming up, Kendra, and eventually, hopefully we get some answers. Kendra Andrews, great reporting as always. You can catch her, of course, on television on ESPN, talking about all this stuff, reporting at ESPN.com. Kendra, this was great, and hopefully we'll talk to you again sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
You too. That's Kendra Andrews with us here on The Hoffman Show.
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's The Hoffman Show on the Team 9-8. Tell your mama I said what's up.